Why is your family member in denial about their dementia? And what can you do about it? So last week, somebody told me that they were feeling really frustrated because their family member who is living with dementia, the family member was in denial. It was really hard to try to help the family member because they just didn't really think they had a dementia. So going to Alzheimer Society for education or going to programming that was designed for older adults living with dementia, that didn't really seem relevant to the family member because they don't have dementia. Why does that keep coming up? In fact, it was causing a little bit of friction in the relationship. So the care partner wanted to know what they should do about this denial. What is denial anyway? So denial, when it's used in kind of medical and psychological terms, means that a person doesn't really accept their condition. So it could be that the person has a cancer and doesn't really want to think about it. So they might appear or might even state that they don't have cancer and that everything's going to be fine and they don't need to have any more tests or treatments. This denial could come on earlier. So even when somebody finds a lump or a concerning symptom, they might kind of downplay it or try to ignore it because they don't really want to know the truth. Denial is usually kind of a protective mechanism. Sometimes it's helpful because it kind of shields the person from thinking about things that are troubling. But it can also be a bad strategy because it could mean that a person is avoiding getting treatment or help that could be very timely and important. But is denial really the right phrase to use when it comes to someone who's living with dementia? The thing about somebody who's living with dementia who's in denial is that it might be because of the dementia that they seem to be in denial. We've talked before about this thing called anosognosia, which is a change in insight. And it literally means the person doesn't know that they don't know. So typically, especially with Alzheimer's, other people will notice the challenges that a person is having more than the person themselves. It's not because they're trying to cover up or deny what they're going through. It could be because the person sincerely, because of the brain changes, doesn't realize the changes that are happening. Especially if there's a short-term memory deficit as well. The person might simply forget about something that's happened. I've had people go out for a drive and come back sort of 3 days later. And in the time that they were away, they might have been calling family, trying to wayfind, asking for help and things like that. But later on, the person doesn't really remember that that happened. And that's because of the brain changes. So we have to be really careful using the term denial when it comes to people who are living with dementia. If your family member seems to be in denial about their condition, it might be because of their brain. It might be that they have anosognosia. They don't know what they don't know. A person who's living with dementia, especially Alzheimer's type of dementia, tends to overestimate how well things are going and kind of underestimate the struggles. Knowing that your family member doesn't realize their challenges could be helpful. It doesn't make it any easier because it still doesn't mean that there's a strategy that can give the person insight. But it might help you to move your energy towards something that's going to be more fruitful. So trying to convince someone that they have dementia so that you can move forward with some of the strategies to help them, that's probably not going to work. And it might just cause more friction. So what might work better is developing ways to work around the person's viewpoint. That might mean focusing on their physical challenges as a way to encourage them to get help. It might mean reframing some of the strategies. So for example, going to a day program as a way that that person could help other people who are living with dementia. So they're not really going there because they have dementia, but they're going to the day program because they could be really helpful there, and it could be a really meaningful activity, and they're kind of needed there. So finding little ways to use those therapeutic phiblets might be more productive than working on trying to convince somebody to see your point of view. Even if you know that your point of view is the one that seems to be rooted in reality. For more about dementia, visit our blog at www.thewrinkle.ca.